Involved with the show, 615-737-1045 is how you do so. 615-737-1045. Lucas is here. I am here. Coach Mack, Ron Slay, and maybe even John Ledyard. We're not sure yet. Will be with us over the course of the show today. A lot of stuff to talk about that's kind of all over the place because the biggest story in sports just kind of dropped in everybody's lap this morning about 6 a.m. when the Tampa Bay Times is reporting or has reported that Tom Brady, the GOAT, the great one, Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl champion, Tom Brady, played the entirety of last season with a torn MCL, as the reporting states, medial collateral ligament in his left knee. So we're going to spend some time on that this morning because between the Tom Brady report and what's happening in the UFC with Conor McGregor, it made me think not about athletes hiding injuries because that's happened since the dawn of time. This is nothing that's new for NFL players, for people who are in the fight game like McGregor. I mean, across sports, you have guys who will not disclose, guys and girls who will not disclose injuries so that they can compete. But now we are in the age of sports gambling being legalized at a rapid rate across this country. Now there are actual dollars and cents. There's always dollars and cents on the line, but now it's the dollars of the public. The public who is not going to be thrilled with the idea that, maybe the UFC, and it is being reported that the UFC, reported by Conor McGregor himself, you'll hear from him later on, that the UFC knew that Conor McGregor had stress fractures in the leg that he ended up snapping in UFC 264. It opens up an insane argument and an insane box of worms, really, with how gambling is going to require these leagues, these governing bodies in the NFL, in the UFC, in the NBA, in Major League Baseball, wherever it is that money is being wagered. These leagues are going to have to find a way to get these guys to disclose their injuries in a way that they have always been reticent to do. 615-737-1045 is how you get in on the conversation. 615-737-1045. We put it to a poll this morning. Is Tom Brady human? Because Lucas made me laugh out loud this morning. Hello, Lucas, by the way.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, very good. Lucas made me laugh out loud this morning because we were reading together the ESPN.com article that is, essentially aggregating the original reporting by the Tampa Bay Times. And it goes through, when Brady tore the MCL, how it gradually worsened during his first year in Tampa. He spent no time. This is the kicker. He spent zero time on the injury report for any kind of injuries, Tom Brady did. And now it is being discovered that he played the entirety of the season. He had surgery. Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network reported that he would have off-season surgery, I believe, right around the trophy celebration, the trophy parade or the boat parade that the Bucs had after winning the Super Bowl. He did report that Brady would be having surgery, but we did not know the severity of it. 615-737-1045. Now, TN Baseball Report says something that is interesting because this is not. I've never torn my MCL, ACL, PCL, any of the CLs that revolve around the knee ligaments. But TN Baseball Report just tweeted us. Playing without an MCL is really not that big of a deal. My daughter played her last 2 seasons of college soccer without one. And I would largely agree with that by TN Baseball Report. Again, not having had the injury myself, this is something that has been done before. But what I'm saying is it's not necessarily about how well Brady plays, because clearly Tom looked a little rusty at certain points throughout the course of the season, and he himself stated that he was still largely learning the Bucs offense as the season was going along with how the offseason was adapted. But it's not about him playing through the injury. It's about, would you or would anybody have put a futures bet, because we're talking about this through the prism of sports betting, would you have put a futures bet on Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl had you known going into the season that Tom Brady was dealing with a knee issue? Of course not. Now, that bet would have paid off because Tom Brady is the greatest of any of the quarterbacks or any of the players in the NFL. Tom Brady is the best. But it does create this fascinating dynamic about how leagues should or would crack down on players for this. We'll get into it more on the other side because there's an interesting – I want to play some Conor McGregor sound for you this morning. I want you to hear Conor McGregor basically not incriminating himself. The video, by the way, if you have not seen it, is visually hilarious. Conor McGregor scooting around in one of these motorized scooters. He seems to be in Southern California some way, just cruising down the block, talking to his phone about, something horrific that the UFC knew about and should have disclosed, probably not letting UFC 264 go on, had the severity of the injury that Conor McGregor had, the stress fractures, been known about or disclosed to the public beforehand. But there was a fight to be put on. Everybody has financial investments in this, particularly the sports leagues. So this is going to affect their bottom line too. But gambling is the multi-billion-dollar, billion with a B, piggy bank that is just starting to, it's not even been cracked open all the way. Nobody's taken a hammer to the gambling money in sports just yet. It's just starting to trickle out across the states that have legalized it. But soon it will flood the entire country. And it will have an impact on how these leagues do business. It's already happening across sports. Hell, it's changed the way that we do content. Very rarely do you just find billions of dollars lying around. And you've always had the ability to access it and just now have decided, yeah, okay, we're in. Sure, why not? Let's get dirty. Whereas the NFL and the NBA, actually the NBA has always been more progressive on the front of gambling than any other league. But the rest of these leagues, particularly the NFL, have largely looked down on this. I mean, I can remember a time when Tony Romo wasn't allowed to attend a fantasy football conference in Vegas because of how the league viewed gambling. Do you remember that?
I don't.
That was like a sports story. Look it up for me while we're talking about it, because I want to make sure that I have all the details right on this. This is probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It's not that long ago. How long has Romo been out of the league? Probably 5 or 6 years. This was at the end of Tony Romo's career. Tony Romo has always been involved in stuff like this. Certainly, I'm sure when Tony's on the golf course, he places a friendly wager or two. But there was a fantasy football convention, or a daily fantasy football convention in Vegas. And they had marketed Romo as one of the athletes who was going to appear. I think Marshawn Lynch may have been on it as well, but I don't want to recklessly speculate. Romo, I know for sure. And the NFL came down on him. They said, no, you can't do this. We don't want the optics of what this looks like, a player in bed with Vegas entities. That would be promoting impropriety. And now they're diving headfirst into the impropriety because they can make billions of dollars on it. Did you find the story?
Working on it.
Okay. 615-737-1045. So we'll get into this with Brady and with Conor McGregor coming up next. Also, because it's 2 days removed from the Richard Sherman story, but the video being released yesterday that I saw all over SportsCenter, and by the way, I want to know how it got leaked that quickly. The phone call itself, the 911 call will shock you. And I know J. Martin Ramon played a little bit of it this morning. We're going to do that as well coming up next. And then Lucas will tell you the details. Or do you want to do it now, Lucas?
Yeah, it's quick. They canceled the entire event. It was a fantasy football convention in Vegas. It wasn't that they had a problem with him endorsing fantasy football. It was a problem of it being tied to a casino.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they have put a stadium.
Look at him now.
They have put a stadium, the best of the NFL stadiums now resides between the casinos. God knows how long it's going to take, or how short of a time period it's going to take before they start putting betting windows in NFL stadiums like they do with European soccer. We're not that far away. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved in the conversation. We would always welcome your participation. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 1045 The Zone.
The biggest topics. Will Bowling hosts the Zone Daily Podcast. Delivered every morning at 5 a.m. on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the entire Zone Podcast Network.
Now, speaking of good feels, good vibrations, or at least good vibes, the Titans just sent out a mass email from or about something that they're doing for training camp, and I want to read from the email directly. So, the Titans will have 4 coaches join the staff during training camp as a part of the NFL's Bill Walsh Coaching Fellowship. Junior Taylor, who's a wide receiver coach at Northern Arizona, Ricky Brumfeld, special teams coordinator at Virginia, Miguel Reveles, offensive coordinator at the University of Laverne, and Clint McMillan. Now, that is all well and good, but the best part of this email is what is in the second line of this. Former Tennessee State University football player Christian Abercrombie will serve as a strength and conditioning intern for training camp. Do you remember, Lucas, who Christian Abercrombie is and what happened to him?
Remind me.
So Christian Abercrombie, a TSU
Tennessee
football
State,
player.
that's right.
Yeah, 615-737-1045, by the way, is how you get involved with the show, 615-737-1045. He had a horrifying issue on the field that it was brain injury that he suffered while or during football season in a game against Vanderbilt. I remember I was calling that game. Well, I wasn't calling that game. I shouldn't say I was doing PA for that game in 2018. So TSU, it was one of the first games of Vanderbilt's regular season at home, and Christian Abercrombie, who I did not know before this point, he just collapsed in a pile of himself. And then all of a sudden you see the medical staff rushing out onto the field. And we in the press box, we had no idea what was going on. I always used to sit right next to Larry Leathers, who we've had on the show before, former the greatest,
legendary,
the greatest of the SIDs, Larry Leathers, who warms my heart every time I hear from him. But so I would always sit next to Larry, and Larry Larry had left the press box for some kind of reason. He did not come back, and the staff had scattered at this point because there was some kind of emergency happening. Now, this was way, way, way above my pay grade at the time, and not like I needed to know as somebody who was doing the PA for the game at Vanderbilt. But it was a horrifying situation to find out that he had suffered some kind of brain trauma in the game. He ended up doing his the rest of his courses at TSU online. He graduated. He seems to be living a healthy life at this point, which is fantastic news. I don't know, and it's none of my business, none of any of our business, I guess, what lasting effects he might have had from that. And I have not. It would be disingenuous to say that I've had a conversation with Christian Abercrombie. I've seen him out at the facility sometimes. I know a lot of the local news stations did have spoken with him and did news stories on him at the time, and certainly after he graduated. But that they're doing this for him, and it's I don't want to say that they're doing it for him. It makes it sound like they're just handing him something. This is a cool thing that the Titans are doing with a guy who has had an incredible story, an incredibly scary story, but now will have the opportunity to intern for an NFL team as a strength and conditioning coach. So that was really cool to see the Titans announced just moments ago. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We were prior to this announcement by the Titans, we were talking about athletes hiding injuries and how this affects particularly governing bodies in sports now that gambling money is being spilled all over the place. Because athletes have, as we discussed, athletes have hidden injuries from coaches or from their training staffs, or maybe the training staff knows about it, and you get a little wink, wink, nod, nod, and you tape it up, or you take some Toradol and you trot out there anyway because God forbid you miss a game. That's always the question that the coaches ask when you say that you're dealing with something. Can you play? Will you be available Sunday or Saturday in the case of college football? Rightly or wrongly. But now with the gambling money and the impact that it has on the public, the wagering that the public is doing, I think that these leagues are, and I'm certain that there are people who have enough foresight working for places like the NFL and the UFC You'll hear from Conor McGregor making an announcement that he probably shouldn't have on his motorized scooter as he's buzzing around L.A.
He's like in the middle of the street.
It's a ridiculous video. This is a segment we like to call Google This. Go look up the Conor McGregor video while we're doing the radio show. But I do think that leagues would have had the foresight to think about this prior to doing deals with gambling entities. But I don't know that. Now we are seeing, especially with stars the caliber of Conor McGregor and Tom Brady and the money that is being wagered on UFC and the NFL specifically, I think it has the ability to make these leagues move more, quickly and efficiently than they might otherwise have had. 615-737-1045. California Rob has called in. He's our first caller of the day. He wants to talk about this subject. What's up, Rob? Rob, you got me?
Hello?
You're on the air, buddy.
Oh, Buck, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Only thing I'm going to say to this, Buck, is not only gambling has affected pay scales for athletes, moving them to a higher grade. We got to go back to the 1919 Chicago White Sox with Joe Shoeless Jackson, who batted 400, and Kennesaw, whoever, the commissioner at the time. They took their title, you know what I mean? They released all them players.
Right,
okay?
yeah.
Jimmy the Greek in the early 70s coming into the NFL, who was a known mafia gambler, a bookie, was giving odds to the people for illegal gambling.
Right.
And the NFL was trying to say they were squeaky clean. But in the 1998, there was a Sacramento football player, running back, probably led the nation in all-purpose yards. And the NCAA, who did not allow NIL at the time, allowed this player to get a shot before every game because he had a fractured rib.
Yeah.
And also, you look at Tom Brady, every game they probably gave him a shot to get out there and go play. Some for the pain medication that they given you. So I'm saying the public, they should reveal all of the injuries to everybody. Since, like you said, since we're out here gambling and people are putting their money up front, they should disclose all of this information before you bet on any team, before you bet on any game. And one other thing. In 1967, 68, or 69, when the New York Jets beat the Baltimore Colts, the first AFL team to win a Super Bowl at that time before they merged, Joe Namath came on TV, was talking about he guaranteed the win.
Right.
So was gambling involved in that?
Yeah.
Who knows? Did they control that? But that's all I got to say.
Hey, thanks for the call, Rob. 615-737-1045. So I was not expecting the history of sports gambling, but that's good I mean, honestly,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
good
Going back to 1919.
Well, I wasn't sure where he was going with pay scale for athletes. Like, should it come out of their pockets? I guess what he's talking about is should they be fined for hiding injuries? And forgive me, Rob, if I've taken you out of context, but that's the conclusion that I've drawn from your call. Listen, they are required to disclose the injuries. It's the only way that we can get Mike Vrabel to tell us what the hell is happening with the players. Is there during the season? Injury reports are mandated for exactly this reason, because the NFL is trying to avoid any kind of liability issues that would result from players not disclosing injury or something happening in a big game that would cause them to look like they have been trying to hide injuries for star players trying to get them to the finish line. Now, this happens on a regular basis, okay? And it's not like just because they are required to report the injuries and distribute that to the media, and then the media distributes it to the public, that doesn't mean that they're always forthright with what the injury report looks like. Bill Belichick has figured out, as soon as this was required, Bill Belichick was making everybody on the roster questionable. All right, this is something that is as much gamesmanship as anything else throughout the course of the week of practice. But with Brady, he wasn't even on the injury report.
Not once.
So that begs the question, was he just able to hide it from the training staff? I refuse to believe. Now Brady is a different subject matter entirely, right? Because the whole one of the reasons, and I'm sure there are many more layers to this, but one of the reasons that the relationship with Brady and Bill Belichick started to fracture is because Brady's doctor, who's not really a doctor, the TB12 guy, what's his name, Alex Guerrero, who Brady would allow on the sidelines of Patriots games, the guy who is responsible for keeping this man ageless at the age of 45, Guerrero, that's probably where Brady is going to seek medical treatment. An independent contractor, for lack of a better term, as opposed to the team's training staff. Now, he's probably doing things that he needs to do with the team's training staff, but he is not, because he has this, and I call him a doctor who's not really a doctor, Guerrero, this person who is on Brady's payroll. Brady is able to, skirt the rules and find ways to not disclose an injury while still making sure that his body and his rehabilitation is such that he can play on this injury. Now, again, a torn MCL or a partially torn MCL is being reported by the Tampa Bay Times. It's not a season-ending injury, obviously. People have played through these kind of things before. Hell, Phillip Rivers played a playoff game on a torn ACL.
Right, and Brady's not a mobile quarterback. Like, if this is somebody like a Lamar Jackson, this is not the case.
It makes a big difference on your game. 615-737-1045. Brady is the exception to this. But if they are found, like, can the NFL retroactively fine Tom Brady for not reporting injuries? Then it gets murky. I mean, we don't need to go through another Deflategate type situation where Brady is being asked to turn over his phone to the league. And all of these things are, it's a bit of a witch hunt. But where do you draw the line with this kind of stuff? The UFC, this past weekend is as guilty as any party in professional sports right now. You'll hear from Conor McGregor on this matter in a moment, but Conor McGregor has just come off, just been recently released from the hospital. He's on a mobile scooter, and he's telling the world what's happening with Conor McGregor, and because, he just can't gracefully lose, it seems. Conor McGregor lacking grace in all ways, shapes, and forms. But he felt it necessary to put out his own content, to put out on his own social media platforms, what exactly was happening with him prior to the fight. The idea, and he alleges this, you'll hear this momentarily, he alleges that the UFC knew and went forward with the fight anyway. Now, UFC is much different than the other. I mean, UFC is as mainstream as any sport right now, especially with the way that Disney has monetized it to boost their streaming platform numbers. They got Disney Plus and ESPN Plus to promote. Now that's where they're driving a lot of the UFC traffic. But Conor McGregor, listen to him in his own words. You can see it. Again, I recommend that you go watch this on his Twitter account. But Conor McGregor disclosing these injuries.
I was injured going into the fight. People are asking me, when was the leg broke? At what point did the leg break? Ask Dana White, ask the UFC, ask Dr. Davidson, the head doctor of the UFC. They knew I had stress fractures in my leg going into that cage. There was debate about pulling the thing out because I was sparring with no shin pads and I kicked the knee a few times. So I had multiple stress fractures in the shin bone above the ankle. And then I have trouble with the ankle anyway, do you know what I mean, throughout the years of fighting all the time. So, and I also was wrapping my ankle. I was wrapping my ankle every training session. I even done a lot of training sessions where when the ankle was sore, I still wouldn't stop training. I used to just train on my back. And that's how I developed those ground and pound shots from the back. That's why Dustin backed away when he was on top of me. And I was landing the up kicks and the elbows and all. It's a horrible place to be in. When you're against someone like me, you can't land. It takes so much effort to try and land shots from your top position. And while you're trying to do that and you're losing your energy, you're getting lumped over by downward elbows and vicious up kicks. And it was a skill I developed because I had the damaged leg and I had to adjust my training. So, now I'm essentially after getting exactly what I needed to get there. I needed to get treatment on my leg. I needed to get treatment on the ankle, and I needed to get treatment on the shin bone. And I would have never committed to going under the knife unless something like this has happened. So something like this has happened. I'm after going in, I'm after getting exactly what I needed. And what I needed was a titanium shin bone. So now I've got a titanium rod going down the knee, from the knee to my ankle. And the doctor said it's unbreakable.
That's Conor McGregor. Lucas is giggling the entire time during that video because he's watching it back in the production studio. You can hear Conor McGregor on his mobile
Like
scooter,
the electronic whirring of his little cherries in.
just buzzing around, and then you hear him go off the curb. It's you got to imagine he's doped up on pain meds right
He's
now,
in the
right?
middle of the street in what looks, like you said, looks like Los Angeles. Oh, my God.
It's unbelievable. 615-737-1045. But what he's saying there is massive news. Ask Dana White what they knew about the injuries beforehand. If Dana White knowingly put a fighter out there where he had the ability to have a fight-ending injury, as we saw Conor McGregor getting, he's threatening Dustin Poirier before the match, saying they're going to carry you out on a stretcher, and then it's McGregor that ends up out on the stretcher. But the point stands. Conor McGregor, no matter what he is or what he's been in the last 5 years, because he hadn't been very good. He's 1-3. Like, Conor McGregor is surviving right now on star power alone, and that continues to be a draw. It continues to bring in gambling money because people know the general sports fan, the fringe sports fan, who is, as much into sports betting as they are the actual sport themselves, they're going to bet on Conor McGregor if they're not smart enough to know otherwise. This has the this should be a massive fine against not even McGregor, but UFC, Dana White, the people responsible for putting him out there in that position and knowing that the public would hammer McGregor, even if he shouldn't have been favored in that fight. And he wasn't favored in that fight. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Danny, who's in Kentucky. He wants to talk about injuries. What's up, Danny?
Hey, Buck, how you doing today?
I'm great, buddy.
Hey, I want to make a quick point about NHL being the worst ones to disclose injuries, and then a
Yes.
quick example of the Boston Bruins in 2013. Their captain, or one of their assistant captains, played with a punctured lung, torn cartilage, and broken ribs, and he just went on and played like it was nothing. This day and age, that would be a huge impact on the whole betting world. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
No, it goes along, and thank you for the call, Danny, 615-737-1045. It goes along the same lines. Now, the NHL, he's spot on about that. Upper body injury or lower body injury. Like, that is the worst of these sports leagues that are required to disclose injuries. But you don't know unless there is somebody doing good reporting on it, and during COVID, this is not an excuse for reporters like myself, but it is a hell of a lot harder to do your job when your access is very much dictated, more so now than ever. And I don't blame the teams for this. It's the circumstances that we've all had to adjust to. I'm not saying this as a Titans reporter with any kind of like vitriol for the Titans or the PR staff. Like, I get it, okay? But to do the job of beat reporter, to break news when you have such little access to these guys anymore, unless you had incredible pre-existing relationships and sources who you can access that you don't need, or that make your life easier when all of your access is remote, as it has been for all of us who are in this business. It is impossible to find out, the severity of an upper body injury or a lower body injury. So what do the leagues do? What do the leagues do? This becomes something, and again, we do not have legal training around here, but just on its face, I think something like this, specifically in the UFC, Brady's situation is a little different. But specifically in the UFC, I think there's probably going to be litigation. Would you not imagine? If it is found out to be so, what Conor McGregor, he's not just doped up riding around Los Angeles on a scooter, doing what do you call them? Kick flips off the curb. That was a pity laugh, but I appreciate it.
He's
anyway.
calling out. I mean, he legitimately called out UFC, and he called out
the entire sport.
Dana White by name.
Yes. If this is proven to be so, would there not be people who feel justified
Absolutely.
in suing Dana White and the UFC? So does the federal government get involved with things like this, with situations like this, and tell these sports leagues how to manage the disclosure of injury information for the sake of the public? I don't know the answer to that question. There are people far smarter than me who have been debating that question, and we will. I mean, only through examples like this do we find precedent for such legal action. But I would have to imagine like something like this is coming down the line as more and more states legalize sports betting, because people are pissed today, especially those of them that bet on Conor McGregor in any form or fashion in their favorite sportsbook app. 615-737-1045. We'll continue to take your calls on this. You guys seem to be passionate about it. You can also interact with us on Zone TV as well. We will do that on the other side. We'll also talk about the Richard Sherman situation, because that's the biggest story in football right now, other than Tom Brady, still beating everybody on one knee. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Giving you the big picture, the real big picture. The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3, 104.5 The Zone.
Let me tell you about the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. I'm actually going out to Mount Juliet today. Maybe I'll stop by Two Rivers Ford. There's a lot
injuries? Because before, I remember there was one year Tom Brady was just essentially probable every week when he played for the Patriots, and I remember they used to use that tag a lot. Do you think that might have any kind of play as into, how the NFL can regulate injuries and teams as well?
That's an interesting angle. I'm certain that a lot of thought goes into these injury designations, especially when they change them. I don't know. I don't, here's what I'll say, okay? Because I don't want to misinform you. I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know how much time and effort we call it for context, okay? Because this is one of my favorite parts of practice. This is why I miss in-person. Like, we would still be able to go to practice, but this is why I miss in-person press conferences the most. Every Friday, it's a skeleton crew of Titans media members who go out and who attend Friday practice, because Fridays are light. It's less formal. The locker room is largely cleared out by the time you get in there, so it's really you're just going to talk to Vrabel and get the injury designations, okay? So we're all standing, always, all of us standing, all of us who go on Fridays, and there's probably about 5 of us who actually go on Fridays. We're all standing on the sideline waiting for practice to end so that we can talk to Vrabel. And there is always a moment at the end of every practice that Vrabel, John Robinson, and Robbie Boren, who's the head of their PR, they gather together and they're going through, what are the injury designations going to be? Now, a lot of times Vrabel will brush us off and he'll just say, well, Robbie will send you the injury report when the time is ready for the injury report to be sent. Sometimes he'll disclose stuff when he's, he'll mess with us on the front end, but sometimes he'll disclose stuff. But that huddle after practice is what my good friend John Glennon of Broadway Sports designates as the crafting of lies. Okay? The crafting of lies. It's my favorite thing. Johnny's got a lot of great quirks, but when we're sitting there on the sideline and Vrabel and Robinson and Robbie Boren are huddled together, and Johnny just starts stroking his chin and just says, yes, the crafting of lies.
Makes it sound so diabolical.
I mean, it's all for fun. We're not accusing the Titans of lying, but it makes me laugh every time. The point being that they think a lot about these injury designations, and there is probably some effect. What the actual effect is, I couldn't tell you, so I don't want to misinform you that way, but I appreciate the call. All right. When we come back, Buckethead just tweeted me, is Nick high? Nick, who asked about the coaches list.
Just no context.
I mean,
12-5. It's egregious.
Like, I have a hard enough time keeping things on the rails as it is.
Just threw 2 names and 2 numbers at
Just
us.
going to roll a grenade in there with 0. Anyway, we'll come back and I'll look at the damn list. And if I'm pissed about it, you'll know. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Believe me, they sound better than they look. 104.5 The Zone TV. Live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope.
Nashville, Tennessee. A full send Friday, in fact. We're going to go full send through these next 2 hours. Ron Slay. He's not going to be in the building, right, Lucas? Ron Slay's not going to come kicking in the door like the Kool-Aid man. I expect Ron Slay to be on Zoom. Of course, Ron Slay of 3HL and VFL fame will join us to break down the NBA Finals. Game 5 on the horizon tomorrow, which I look forward to watching. D. Good just writes in the chat on YouTube, effing send it, Buck. I'm going to, baby. I'm trying to get through today. I'm trying to get through today, to be honest. I'm playing hurt. I came in not to be the victim while I make myself the victim. But I have been complaining of stomach issues for the last 2 days. We had a great show yesterday. It was enough to distract me from how miserable, from how lousy I felt. Because, Lucas, I could not believe. I mean, I could because you guys did a great job with it. But the amount of texts and messages and DMs I got about the Tennessee geography bee, people loved that. Well, you got nothing?
I'm sorry. I was in here talking to Ian, our engineer, who's helping us out with something.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not like we're doing anything. My bad, Ian. 615-737-1045. Just giggling behind the scenes. But yes, the Tennessee geography bee was great. I'm trying to get through today because I've spent all week. This is, you know what this is? This is like the Mount Rushmore thing the other day with Lindsey Rowley.
Mm-hmm.
This is sweet, sweet justice. Because I've been excited about my birthday festivities, even though my birthday's not till Tuesday. We're doing my birthday in 2 parts over the next 2 days. A big dinner planned tonight. I think Dara invited 14 people to go to dinner with us, and then we're going to a club afterwards. She got a table for about 20 people. I'm excited about it. And now I feel lousy after 2 days. So this is what I get for being a diva about my birthday all week on the air.
Did the geography bee build your confidence at all going into your birthday weekend?
Build my confidence at all?
You did much better than I thought you would.
I mean,
you were 12 of 14.
Listen.
12 and 14.
Listen to me. I am inherently overconfident about everything that I do in my life. It's the only way that I could feel. And when they asked me if I wanted to do a 3-hour radio show, and I said, yeah, I'll do it by myself. No problem. It's because I'm dumb. Now, it turns out this is working out swimmingly, but there was no reason for me to believe that prior to us figuring out the dynamics of how this radio show was going to work, okay? I'm just generally overconfident. It's why, I come off as largely unlikable and strident, which I'm good with. 615-737.
The good people of Santa Fe probably think so after yesterday.
No, that was the only thing. That was the only thing about the geography bee that I was scared of, because I don't want people in Lafayette or Santa Fe,
nice,
or Salina,
nice,
to be upset with us because I don't know how to pronounce the names of their cities.
Rhett was just and available in all your podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts on the Zone Network. Rhett was constantly warning you throughout the segment, hey, easy.
Now. Well, because you told me before we went on air, in our pre-show meeting, hey, don't rip any of the names of these towns because we have people that listen there. And I think I manage that okay. Sometimes my jokes come off as Charlie would say, he'd like to punch me in the face if he saw me on the street if I was one of the Titans players. Still waiting for you, Chuck.
We said we need more English teachers in this state.
Well, yeah, that was probably not a great look for me. I mean, come on. There was and again, I love the people of Santa Fe. I love the people of Lafayette. I love the people of Salina. Of Blount County. I love you all. Okay? I think it's fair for me to wonder why the hell we pronounce it Lafayette in Tennessee.
Brent was born in Blount County.
There are jokes to be made there as well, but I will not. Or Lebanon, given that my family is from the Middle East, and, Egypt is very close to Lebanon, not Lebanon. 615-737-1045. Oh, are you kidding me? Look, okay, Lucas, I'm pissed now. Now I'm officially upset. Because Nick, our buddy who Buckethead accused of being high, who called in earlier, Nick _Martinez 35 has tweeted us. All right, it's the same Nick that called the show to completely derail the proceedings. He says, the app messed up and closed even though I didn't touch it. What is your opinion on the list? Did I miss it?
Yeah, you missed it.
You got to be kidding me. I'm seething. Nick, I don't give a damn about the list. I just don't. I love Austin and Zach. They do a great job. The list that they are referencing is from June 28th, okay? It's a dry time in local sports, and that's a heady play by them to pull this out of their butts, on July the 16th. I do not care about the CBS ranking of coaches because I went and sought out the list to see if there was anything that I would actually object to because I'm not going to outright dismiss, everybody, even though sometimes I sound super dismissive. But just the idea that he missed it and he wants to come back for more. Nick, I don't care where CBS ranked Mike Vrabel. I don't care where Austin and Zach ranked Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I think that was his issue.
I mean,
Austin and Zach put him.
Oh yeah, he's offended that. So for those of you who are just now joining us, Nick had called in. Austin and Zach are A and Z of A to Z Sports, where I also do a show Sunday to Thursday night, A to Z Sports Prime Time, because I don't got enough to do. But Austin and Zach this morning did a show on the coaches' rankings from CBS Sports. And the contention that Nick had was that he was offended that Austin and Zach would dare. Vrabel is ranked 14th for anybody who gives a damn. Couldn't be me. Vrabel is ranked 14th on the CBS poll. Austin and Zach felt, benevolent enough to bump him up to 12. And Nick's biggest issue was that Sean McDermott is at 5, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Why do I care? I don't. Do you know why? Because I looked at this list. I went out just so I wasn't dismissing it offhand. I went and found the list, okay? Then I discovered it was from damn near a month ago, and then immediately I became upset. But then because the name at the top of the list, the names at the top of the list, it's not only is it the names at the top of the list, because Andy Reid is the number one ranked coach in the poll, okay? Bill Belichick too. Why do I care about any of that? Andy Reid has the best quarterback in all of football. Yes, it's going to make Andy Reid look a hell of a lot better. I don't care that Mike Vrabel is at 12. I don't care that Mike Vrabel is at 14. I don't care if you care that Sean McDermott is that much higher than Mike Vrabel. You know who else didn't care? Mike Vrabel. All Vrabel cares about right now is bringing the stash back, because I don't know how many people saw that at the celebrity golf tournament that they do at Lake Tahoe. The stash is back, ladies and gentlemen. This is breaking news. Well, not breaking news because it was from last weekend. But all he cares about right now is his stash and his golf game. Because I don't know how Jimmy Wyatt tweeted out his scorecard because, of course, Jim did. But Danny Sutherland says sometimes you just got to get over it. I mean, man, I tried to not do the list. Nick not only called the show, but then tweeted us.
We complain about the thing, and then we do the thing.
I didn't do it, though. I just complained
about it.
When we come back, we will talk, not complain, but we will talk with Ron Slay about these NBA Finals. Game 5 will take place tomorrow. I'd be curious to think or to hear what Slay has to say.
If he's awake.
That's right. Why does he take Anyway, we'll see if Ron Slay is awake. Coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Every great Titans moment can be found here. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
We're going to talk about these NBA Finals. Game 5 tomorrow night. The Bucks have evened up the series. I'm frankly fascinated by this in a way that I thought I was going to be disinterested after the Suns went up 0-2. Slay joins us now on the show. Hello, Ron. How are you?
What up, bro?
You are the worst kind of a troll. You know that?
What up, dude?
We're doing better than we deserve, Slay, honestly, and we're happy to have you a part of the show. Happy that you're awake and ready to talk about these finals. Lucas is yelling at me in my ear that I have to give away some Music City Grand Prix tickets while we're talking to Slay. So why don't I do that? Be caller number 5 right now. We'll send you a pair of tickets to the Music City Grand.
No, be caller 35.
No, that's not how it works, Ron.
Don't do that, Slay.
No, I've already got the lawyers up my butt about a bunch of stuff, Ron. Don't get me in more trouble than I need to be. Be caller number 5 before Ron Slay gets me fired. 615-737-1045. Slay, can the Suns rely on a 36-year-old point guard?
Man, you know what? I believe so. It's just as Father Time creeps into this series and it goes on longer and longer, Chris Paul looks older and older. So I know right now the Suns need him without a doubt, and they need him to be at a high level. Can they get that? I think he'll get that at home. Whatever treatment he has to do, whatever he has to do to get ready for this game, I think he brings it in Game 5. I think that was a disappointing game for him. And then he has to battle these skeletons in his closet about, something always going wrong, and as series go on for him. So this is that time to get over that hump. This is what they brought him here for, and this is the opportunity that he asked for. So I think he gets over the hump with this.
Well, it'll be curious to see because, throughout you're spot on with that. Throughout the course of his career, he's always been plagued by some kind of injury that takes away from the performance that he might otherwise be able to put on the court. But I don't want to take credit away from what the Bucks have done, Slay, because for a while watching them, and this has been the biggest criticism of Mike Budenholzer as their coach, why he was under some heat if they didn't get out of the Eastern Conference Finals. Because they felt like they were because Giannis is so dominant at what he does, but nothing else really, it felt like they were just rolling the ball out there for a bunch of not complete offensive players and telling Giannis, hey, go do what you do. And it wasn't good enough, even as he was putting up points. But the way that he has performed in the paint specifically and the way that they've kind of formulated the offense around him, what can you say about how the Bucks have taken the momentum back?
Oh, that's exactly what it is, and I think you got to give Budenholzer a little credit. And I'm firm in my stance on Budenholzer knowing how to trick away a game. All the way when he was back with Atlanta with the Hawks having 5 All-Stars and not able to get through the playoffs at all, and to this team having the back-to-back MVP and Defensive Player of the Year and still not figure out. And he's supposed to be an offensive genius,
right?
But I think he figured it out on this one. He took the ball out of Giannis' hand, and that was the best thing he could have did. Made him a guy that's getting the ball on the move instead of getting it at the top of the key, letting the defense load up, and making him a playmaker instead of giving him the ball on the move and letting him make plays, which is a difference. So I think he figured that part out, and also he's got the old Drew Holiday back. He has the New Orleans Pelicans Drew Holiday playing for him right now, the defensive guru that could get out there and, disturb people, and then on the other end, be able to bring it also. And then, Chris Middleton stepped up. But this is what we've seen out of the Bucks. This is why it's always so hard to put the money on the Bucks, because the inconsistencies that they play with. You see 2 or 3 games like this, and you're like, oh, they can win the finals. Then they'll go and they'll get blown up by 16-20, and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened? So if they can keep this up and keep this on the road, I think it bodes well for him, but I'm not a believer in it.
At Ron Slay 35 is where you can, of course, follow the great Ron Slay of 3HL, who will be on later today from 3 to 6. You bring up Chris Middleton, and the performance that he had in Game 4 was spectacular again. A career high, playoff high, 40 points. He had 14 in the fourth quarter. I saw this stat from ESPN Stats and Info that Giannis and Chris Middleton are the third pair of teammates over the last 50 years to each have a 40-point game in an NBA Finals. The others are LeBron and Kyrie, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Magic Johnson. If
Wow.
as a basketball player and somebody who understands what they're watching on a greater level than the rest of us schlubs, Slay, are you comfortable with Chris Middleton as the closer for the Bucks as opposed to Giannis?
You know what? I am. And just because you get labeled as the closer, you're closing on one end. But we saw who the closer is on the other end. So, it's a dual effort by these two. You got Giannis doing the defensive closing, and then you got Chris Middleton doing the offensive closing. And I think it's good the position that he's in. He's getting to show why he's an all-star. And when he gets the ball, Phoenix believes they can stop him one-on-one, which they're sadly mistaken. The help needs to be brought over because one-on-one, he is a tall player. This guy's like 6'7", 6'8", man. So once he gets to his spot and raises up, there's really nothing you can do about that with a scorer like him. Same thing you see for Devin Booker on the opposite end. But Chris Middleton, I think he's in a role where he can flourish. Can he continue to be the guy? I think that's the thing. Like, as the series goes on, can he continue to do that? His back was against the wall in this situation. And, I think it caught Phoenix a little off guard. Monty Williams is a guy that makes adjustments as well as Budenholzer. So it's going to be interesting to see the adjustment he makes as far as guarding Middleton. I think they've done a terrific job with Giannis as much as you can when he's rebounding the ball like this. But Middleton and Drew Holiday, them getting going, that's what you always want to say. You don't want to let 3 people. 2 people, you can fight. 3 people, you ain't got a chance.
Yeah, I'm still shocked that Giannis is doing anything at all, given the way that I thought his knee exploded in the Eastern Conference Finals, Slay. It's one of the most impressive performances I've seen from an athlete at this level. Going back to the Suns, though, how much of, because we talk about the inconsistency from Milwaukee, but Phoenix and Devin Booker, particularly in Game 3, that's probably one of the worst games, if not the worst game, that he's played in this postseason. How much does Booker's inconsistency have to do with Chris Paul struggling a little bit?
A whole lot. Because you get used to playing a certain way with a ball handler and a maestro like Chris Paul, and he puts you in easy positions to score. So when Chris Paul is turning the ball over the way he was, and really not there as far as looking like he has his legs under him, it puts Devin Booker in more of a playmaking role where we want Devin Booker to be that Kobe Bryant. Like, you hear all the comparisons of him as far as when it comes to scoring and footwork. So you want him to be that. You don't want him to be the guy coming off the pick and roll trying to get people involved early in the shot clock. You want that to be Chris Paul. And then once you get to 8 seconds, give it to Devin Booker and everybody move out the way. That's what you want. The roles have been reversed the way Chris Paul's handling the ball. You look at the stats, and I'm not a big stat guy, but this one I think is glaring. The teams that win the rebounding margin and the turnover, they win the game. Outside of the first game in Game 1, when the Suns won, they had the most turnovers, and they still won. Outside of that one, the rebounding and the turnovers, whoever wins that ends up winning the game, and it's been like that from 2 through 5. 2 through 4. So we'll see what changes happen with that. But I think Chris Paul is a guy, man, that he has to get it under control to allow a guy like Devin Booker to be as special as we saw he can be when he's not in foul trouble.
Well, and the turnovers is something that's been completely uncharacteristic of Chris Paul specifically, even throughout the course of this postseason. It's just something that's popped up here recently. We saw him do something that we so rarely see, which is turn the ball over in clutch minutes. I'm looking at ESPN right now. He had 2 turnovers in clutch time, which the NBA defines as a game with a score within 5 points in the final 5 minutes in Thursday night's game. 8 turnovers total in 152 minutes of clutch time all season. Is he just pressing?
I think so. Like, this is a situation, as much as we love Chris Paul and need to see him get a ring to be that great, this is a situation he hasn't been in either. These lights are brighter for him also. So you start to press and okay, let me get off this pick and roll, and you got a guy like Giannis, not Lopez, but a guy like Giannis defending the pick and roll, which changes the entire dynamic of it. So now not only are Chris Paul can't see those passing lanes to get it to open shooters, but now when he's getting to his spot and running to get around that free throw area to shoot his shot, this is a guy that when he extends looks like he's 7'4", trying to block your shot. So you're thinking about all of that at the same time. You got a guy, Drew Holiday, that's guarding the ball, that's not leaving you. So it's a lot that comes into play with it, man. And that's something that, like you said, we don't see that from Chris Paul often, man. But that's like me running down the street with chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A, man, and trying to dip it in my sauce. I get so excited when I see the sauce. Sometimes I just fumble the sauce, and that's why I have little stains on my shirt when y'all see me. But
that's every day in this studio.
That's neither here nor there.
What are you coming in? We don't necessarily cross paths between shows, Slay. Are you coming in here stained with barbecue on a regular basis?
Hey, it might happen. I'm just saying, if you see me like that, just know I got excited. You know, I've never been in that spot when I'm on the run. I like to sit down and eat. So, hey, man, it is what it is.
You have like 7 barbecue sauce bottles in the mini fridge in this studio.
Right.
You got to get more. It's unbelievable.
That's right.
Never know what you're gonna need.
You look up, Buck, and you'll see me through the glass if you were in there with Lucas or Joe Hunk, man, and I'll be drinking one. Like I'll just drink some sauce. Like that's how I get my power, man. The power's in my sauce.
Thank God for the Peloton. Ron Slay here with us on 104.5 The Zone. All right, I'm gonna give you 3 names, Slay, of non-star players who I want to know who you think of these 3 is going to have the biggest impact in deciding these finals. Mikal Bridges, Bobby Portis, or Pat Connaughton. Who do you think has the ability to have the greatest impact as a non-star player?
Ooh, that's tough right there, Buck. Mikal Bridges, Connaughton, or who? Who was the third?
Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton.
You know what? I love both of those Milwaukee Bucks players. I love Mikal Bridges just for what he brings defensively. He's going to play terrific at home. Man, I sound like Charles Barkley when I said that.
Oh, wait, did we lose Slay? There he is.
No, yeah, I am. No, I ain't going nowhere, Buck.
Continue with your analysis.
Why would I leave you? I'm right here.
Well,
I like Bridges. I like Bridges if he can score. But I think one guy you left out, I think the guy that has the biggest impact, and this is when we're going to see who Monty Williams really is and if he'll pull the trigger, I think Cam Johnson. I think Cam Johnson is that guy that we look at these next 3 games. If it goes 7, it might get done in 6. That's my hoping. But if it goes 7, he's the guy, I think, that buckles down and plays defense. You know what you're going to get offensively from him, but he could be the wild card defensively to come in and give you what Bridges couldn't give you offensively and try to add on to what Bridges does defensively. So I'm going to go with Cam Johnson. I'm going to go outside the box. It's only right.
I like that. Slay makes his own rules. And the only reason that he would leave this show is because I threw away his Chick-fil-A barbecue sauce lunchbox. Go ahead, Lucas.
Slay, we had a caller. I think it was Darrington, who I know hangs out with you guys on 3HL a good bit, that was livid at how people were overreacting about Giannis Antetokounmpo's block on DeAndre Ayton late in Game 4. Go ahead.
I'm back.
Well, Darrington was upset because of the comparisons to LeBron James. Just how – oh, and he dropped off.
He's calling back. All right, we'll get Slay back in a minute, and we'll let Lucas re-ask the question because that is a good point. I mean, I did make the comparison, Slay. Ron Slay back with us here on 104.5 The Zone. I guess the Chick-fil-A, the memories of me throwing away the Chick-fil-A lunchbox touched a nerve. What I said on the show, Slay, that pissed Darrington off so much is that I compared Giannis's block to LeBron James in 2016, one of the most unholy swats that we've ever seen in an NBA Finals that really defined that performance for LeBron. Now, the implications would seem to be the same, but Lucas, I mean, if you want to finish asking your question, because I'm not sure what your question was outside of
I mean, just
I made the comparison.
How impressive of an individual effort was that by Antetokounmpo?
Pan, what you got for me?
Just how impressive of an individual effort was that from Antetokounmpo?
That right there, Pan, is what you teach big men. So the defense that Brook Lopez, this is a great comparison, that Brook Lopez plays on the pick and roll is a problem because he's back waiting in the lane. If you look at Giannis, what he played on that defense, it was the same pick and roll defense. When the guy was penetrating, he stepped up instead of stepping back. And he's quick enough and long enough to make you not want to shoot the shot because it may get blocked, and quick enough to return and has the instinct to know where his guy is. So that play, that's what you want all big men to do. And the reason some of the big men are extinct and they're always switching on the pick and roll is because the bigs can't do what Giannis did on that play and recover to your guy when the guy's getting a drop-off pass, which he was in what they call the dunker spot. And that's exactly what it was about to be, a dunk. So that was on the scale of 1 to 10, that was a 10.5 defensively. That is training tape. That's what you put on the training tape, and you explain all big men the way to play the pick and roll.
Don't tell Darrington that.
All right, Slay, game 5.
So guess what? Let me take a stab at that, too. That comparison, Buck, I'm going to give you props. Oh. That is the right comparison, just not the right play. If you go back a little bit more, same situation, same finals game, same impact it had, not the one that LeBron did when he was in Cleveland, but the one he did on Thiago Splitter when he played for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes.
That block right there, just as impactful, changed the course of the game. Like, that was it. And after LeBron made that block on him, we knew that series was over. So, and to make that defensive play, it was just as strong as Giannis. So, you got it right on the head. It's just the wrong series, but that's the exact same block. So I agree.
All right, Slay, game 5 tomorrow night. The ability to break this tie. Who you got?
Suns win by 13.
By 13. Okay, what's the over-under?
Yes, sir. Ooh, that's where it gets choppy. It gets a little dicey. I think the over-under, if I got to pick, I'm going under 220. 225.
Okay.
Let's go under 225.
Now on that note, before I let you get out of here and you tell us what's happening on 3HL later, we've been talking a lot this morning, Slay, about Tom Brady not disclosing that he had a torn MCL all last year, and Conor McGregor coming out and saying that he had stress fractures in his leg before he went into the octagon, and Dana White knew. As somebody who is known to place a friendly wager, Slay, how does this make you feel as a gambler, knowing that athletes always hide injuries. I'm not going to tell you this, but knowing that this has the impact that it does now that all of us are gambling on sports?
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. I'm more so pissed, not at Brady, because listen, if the world knew how much basketball, football, baseball players play through, like all athletes, women's, men's, if you knew the injuries that they play through, you'd be astonished by it. Like, you'd be like, there's no way. But when it comes, I'm more pissed off at a guy like Conor McGregor. Like, because he tricked me, and I lost on Conor McGregor because he fooled me to thinking the old Conor was back.
Right.
And for you to come in there with stress fractures in your – come on, man.
Yeah.
You got to reveal that. There's no way. I already didn't want to bet on Conor. But then I saw the swagger coming back, him being the butthole coming back. So I said, hey, I'm rolling with McGregor. And lo and behold, this man talking about he got stress fractures. Come on, dog. I think it's an excuse. On his part.
Oh, probably. I mean, he's been anything but graceful about this loss, so it's entirely possible.
Right.
Exactly. Ron Slay, Sauce God, 3HL, later from 3 to 6 on 104.5 The Zone. At Ron Slay 35 is where you can find him. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, man, let me say something real quick. You're rubbing off on Pan, man. Pan had a button-down chili pepper shirt on yesterday.
Listen, I can't.
I said that is straight out of Buck's closet. I know it is.
I can't help that I have taste, Slay. I'm sorry. What am I going to do?
I love it. My guys.
Get out of here. 3HL later on this afternoon. Ron Slay, always fun. When the Slay God, the Sauce God, gives us a call. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into this Richard Sherman stuff. From light to heavy. What's happening with Richard Sherman is probably one of the scariest stories in sports right now. It involves all of the bad things that you don't want with an NFL player in particular. We're going to go through the scenario. We'll play for you the 911 call itself. I would say to you that if you are somebody who is bothered by the idea of self-harm, because of course Richard Sherman was saying that he was looking to take his own life, according to his wife in this particular 911 call, I would say that just be aware that that is on the other side. We'll get into it coming up next. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
J. Mart and Ramon, you just keep doing you.
I'll do this, you do you. I just nod my head on that one.
Jason Martin and Ramon Foster, Monday mornings starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
this yesterday, and you guys immediately flooded Lucas in the phone lines. But at 12:15, we have one more pair. Nashville SC, courtesy of our friends at T-Mobile, gave us 20 tickets to take you to a Nashville SC match with us this Saturday at Nissan Stadium. We will give away the final pair of those tickets at 12:15 today, so make sure that you're listening. Now, I'm not going to just give them to you. I know a lot of people do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make you work for it just a tad. But at 12:15, I'm excited about that, by the way.
It's a fun crew.
It is a fun crew. We even though we have done a lot of this at random, I'm excited about the people who seem to here's why I wasn't worried about it. Because the people that listen to our show, I vibe with, okay? Like I got some dude tweeting me yesterday about being a Zone listener for 20 years or something like that, and finally he'd had enough with me or something. Like I was the thing that put him over the edge, and he started it out by saying B-dubs after 20 years, yada, yada, yada. If you say B-dubs, I don't want you anyway. Get out of here. Be gone. Get out of my life. So that guy doesn't listen to the show. I don't get along with that guy. The people that listen to the show I get along with, so I'm happy about that. So we'll tell you what time. Well, we've told you what time to call in at 12:15 today. Also, Coach Mack in the noon hour. So now to a little bit of a serious conversation, because we really, the timing of the Richard Sherman story for us was not great, because right when it broke, we got a little bit of a heads up that it might be coming as the show was starting. Lindsay Rowley of Bally Sports walked in here right when it dropped, and I did not feel it appropriate to put her in a position where I'm like, hey, domestic violence in sports. Let's talk about it, Lindsay.
What do you think?
Yeah, your thoughts. Go. No. So we now, unfortunately, because of the nature of the story, this has stretched over the course of 3 days now. So if you are unfamiliar with what happened to Richard Sherman, the NFL cornerback, famous Super Bowl champion, multi-time Pro Bowler, one of the highest level players at his position and in the league for a good deal of time. Richard Sherman was arrested after it was alleged that he attempted to break into his in-laws' home in Washington State. Now, the camera footage has been released and put out into the world, unfortunately, just because it's like the Ray Rice video. People freaked out once the Ray Rice video came out, and my biggest question was, well, what did you think domestic violence looked like? Like, the video, I guess, just makes it more real for people, and I understand that. So the video is out now, and as of this morning, he was released from jail without bail Thursday following this attempt to break into his in-laws' house. So here was the 911 call. This is his wife who called in, and there are many facets to this call, but I wanted to hear it with you guys, and then I wanted to react to it with you guys. So here is it, courtesy of Washington State.
911, what are you reporting?
I need officers to my house now. My husband is drunk and belligerent. He's threatening to kill himself.
Stop. What's the address? Are there any weapons? Stop.
There's no gun. I'm saying there are no weapons, ma'am. There are no weapons.
You need to stop interrupting me so I can get the information I need to get officers expedited.
I need officers here now.
What's he doing that you think he's going to harm himself?
He's being aggressive. He has sent text messages. I took the keys out. They're in your car. He's trying to leave now in the house. He's being aggressive. He's wrestling with my uncle. He's threatening to kill himself. He has sent text messages to people saying he's going to hang himself. He's saying that if the police show up, so please don't shoot is what I'm asking.
Okay, wait. Say that again.
He has no weapon.
He says if the police show up,
he said if the police show up, that he'll try to fight them. So they need to understand that he is.
Okay. Has it been physical with anybody there? You said he's trying to fight your uncle?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
How has it been physical?
He just tried to fight him.
Okay, trying to fight somebody and actually being
yes,
physical
is
two different things. How has it been physical?
It's a 2016 black Mercedes. Richard, please stop. Richard, please stop. Please stop.
Is that a sedan, SUV?
It's just a black sedan Mercedes SUV.
Okay.
He's not going to be able to get out the gate. I cut it off.
What do you mean you cut it off?
I cut the gate. We live behind it. It's Richard Sherman. Like, ma'am, this is like a emergency. I need officers here
Listen
now.
to me. I'm handling this. You need to stop telling me that.
Okay, but what I'm
not going to slow help down. Talking to me is not going to slow help down.
Okay, well, what I needed to know is that he
What's your name?
My name is Ashley Sherman.
Do you know what his date of birth is?
3/30/88.
Okay, slow down so I can understand you. What's the date of birth?
March 30th, 1988.
You need an ambulance there? You said it was physical.
No, we don't need an ambulance.
Okay. And he does not have any weapons or access to weapons?
No. No.
Okay, and how much has he had to drink tonight?
2 bottles.
2 bottles of what?
Ma'am. A vodka and Hennessy.
Okay, hard alcohol.
It's alcohol. He's intoxicated.
Okay, sir. I'm only going to talk to one person, so please put the phone down and talk to Ashley.
Okay, is the sheriff on the way?
Okay, listen, it's over on dispatch, okay? Talking to me is not going to slow anything else down.
I am sick to my stomach about that 911 operator. And listen, I don't know what that job is like. It sounds incredibly thankless. It sounds extremely stressful. You probably hear a lot of traumatic things that will affect you. But the way that 911 out of all of this, and we'll continue to react to that on the other side. If I don't know if we have any 911 operators in the audience, but I would be fascinated to get some context. I would be fascinated to get some context on that because, I mean, that just breaks my heart to hear somebody calling, emergency dispatch services for help when there is somebody who they are saying is drunk and violent, much less a professional athlete. That this woman, the 911 dispatcher, would handle it this way. It's not just snark; it's dismissive. It's not helpful. Please slow down so I can understand what you're saying. I'm only going to talk to one person. What is that? I don't even know how to process it.
Like, it sounded like she cut her off when she asked for the address, and then Ashley started to give the address, and she was cut off by the operator.
Of all of the things that are wrong with this story, hearing that exchange, I can't even imagine what it is like to be the family of Richard Sherman. I'm happy that that's out there, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, we don't call, and if you want to react, 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. There's only so many ways that I can say that made me hurt. I mean, 10 seconds in, where she's just backing Ashley Sherman off while Ashley Sherman is pleading for help from them. I've never heard anything like that in my life, and I hate that. We'll get into the Richard Sherman side of things as well, and if you would like to weigh in, the phone lines are lighting up, so I imagine some of you do. 615-737-1045. We'll come back and do that on the other side, and then Coach Mack will be here to brighten up the proceedings. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We know you can't wait. Titans training camp is coming. Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
show for the week. Getting you through this Friday, I think, in quite quick fashion. We're grateful for your participation, as always, throughout the course of the show. 615-737-1045 is how you do the damn thing. 615-737-1045. Evan will lead us off here shortly. Just to reset, for those of you who might be joining us in your cars on the way to lunch or whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you're streaming us, listening to us across the board. We played for the audience, for you guys, the Richard Sherman 911 call. Now, the video of Richard Sherman, the doorbell cam, has been released as well, of him trying to get into his father-in-law's house, it sounds like. Again, Richard Sherman released from jail without bail Thursday after the alleged attempt to break in. It was considered at the time burglary, domestic violence, based on the situation that Richard Sherman had put himself in, drunk and proclaiming, according to his wife, Ashley Sherman, on the 911 call, thoughts of suicide, which is unfortunate. Chris Bird has tweeted us, "Don't go down this road. The minute the call comes in, it goes to dispatch. She's an information gatherer and updates the system. Officers can see real time so they know what they are walking into. However, the minute the call comes in, someone is dispatched." No, I'm not taking it easy on this 911 operator. I'm sorry. And no, I'm not sorry at all. The etiquette displayed by the 911 operator was atrocious. God forbid something, I mean, this is a serious circumstance, but some harm had actually befallen Ashley Sherman and Richard Sherman's family, or Richard Sherman himself, given the suicidal implications of this thing. Don't go down this road. Man, what are you talking about?
I mean, we don't know, like, what a person in those shoes goes through day to day, or what they're like. We don't understand that area.
I said that already.
But it's not – one thing you can't say is it didn't sound like a calming presence, right? Like, if I'm in Ashley Sherman's shoes there, that is not a calming presence. That's just firing me up more.
I was about to say –
stressing me out more.
Exactly right. If I am Ashley Sherman, that is ramping me up more. That is causing me more anxiety, more angst, because I don't believe I'm being helped in my time of need when I feel it necessary to call emergency services. 615-737-1045. We'll brighten up the proceedings with Coach Mack of Titans Radio in just a second, but in the meantime, people want to react to this. Evan is up first on this particular subject. What's up, Evan?
What's up, Buck? Hey, man, I'm so glad this is like the first thing you brought up, because that's the only thing that was resonating with me in that call, and I felt like a bad person, like I was, missing the point of the subject. But that dispatcher, I've never heard anyone speak to a potential victim or a victim like that in any kind of 911 call I've ever heard. She was literally arguing with her about, she goes, there's a difference between trying to start a fight and actually fight. Like, no, he's trying to start a fight. That's how you take it. It's a violent act, any kind of violent intention. And then she didn't never even ask for the address. Like, to me, if somebody's calling and saying, I need cops to my house immediately, first off, you find out what's going on. Then the next question out of your mouth should be, and like we've said, we don't know the protocol and all that stuff, but this is just my gut telling me, but it should be, where are you located? What is, and the dispatcher never even asked that. So it just feels like she completely bungled it, and she was even telling her to stop at certain times. And yes, the call before could have consisted of somebody just consistently screaming at the dispatcher, but something tells me you treat each call differently. And I don't know, I just completely feel like she bungled the job. And, man, like I said, I'm so glad this is one of the first things you brought up, because I completely agree with you, man.
Thank you for the call, Evan. 615-737-1045. Like, let's not get lost, because that is the first thing that pops off. Not necessarily the story. I mean, the Richard Sherman story is a big story because of who Richard Sherman is. And honestly, it kind of entrenches me in my position that I expressed on, what would that have been, Wednesday, when I said, is it wrong that my thought process when I heard this news without the rest of the information, without the 911 call, without the camera footage, was that this was some kind of another football player losing his mind a little bit. Now he seems to be heavily intoxicated, and there's very few people are sane if they drink 2 bottles of hard liquor if in fact Richard Sherman was able to put down 2 bottles of hard liquor. But whatever's going on with Richard Sherman is the story here, the most egregious element of it, the thing that is easiest for all of us, I think, to grapple with is, my God, can you imagine being the person on the other end of that 911 call? I just couldn't. 615-737-1045. John in Cookville. I'm told, Lucas tells me you have good perspective, John. I look forward to hearing it. Good morning.
Hey, John, or hey, Lucas, how you there?
Well, I'm Buck, but that's okay.
I'm Buck, sorry. No, my wife, she's been a 911 dispatcher for 5 years. You know, when you receive that call, the first thing that happens is your address immediately pings up on their system. Now, there's a list of protocols that they have to follow, you know, what is the address, what's happening. And, you know, it is hard for them to get that information that is required for them to send out the unit when somebody is screaming. Yes, the dispatcher was very disrespectful in that aspect, and she should have handled it maybe a little differently. But, you know, like I said, there's a list of rules that they have to follow to get that information so they can receive the proper help that they need.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, John. 615-737-1045. So we can all agree that they're understanding now more what goes into one of these situations because, of course, the vast majority of us have no context for what a 911 dispatcher's job looks like. And so on that end, I do want to have a degree of not sympathy, but empathy about what a job like that must consist of. But also, I think that by consensus, we can agree that that was handled poorly. I mean, and then there's Richard Sherman. Then there's the bigger issue, the issue itself. What the hell is happening with Richard Sherman? This is somebody who is one of the most intelligent, not even just in the classification of football player. Richard Sherman is a bright dude among other bright dudes, like by any, in any walk of life, any profession. Richard Sherman is of way above average intelligence. He is somebody who is a superstar in the NFL, a Super Bowl champion, should have been 2 times, if not for, the Malcolm Butler, the play that made Malcolm Butler famous. What's happening with Richard Sherman terrifies me. Because every time just from my worldview as an NFL reporter covering a local NFL team, the Tennessee Titans, when guys get concussions, and circumstances are different now because of the way that COVID has changed our access, but when guys would be gone with concussions and would come back once you finally see them back in the locker room after having dealt with a concussion. Now, a lot of times while they're in the concussion protocol, you won't see those guys around. Obviously, they're not going to subject them to media questioning while they're working through the concussion protocol. But there's always, and it varies by degree, by severity, but there's always something that feels like when these guys are coming back and you're talking to them for the first time after a concussion, like there's a little piece of them that's missing. That's always scared the holy hell out of me. That's the biggest fear with football. I mean, concussions are not exclusive to football, of course. Women's soccer is probably the most underreported sport in this regard. But when you're not sure where the person that you're used to talking to, the player whose personality you've come to know, where that part of them is, and you know that they've just recently come off from concussion. This isn't the case every time, but enough that I've noticed it in 5 years doing this job. Every time one of these stories pops up with Richard Sherman or Junior Seau, many different scary concussion-related, CTE-related stories that have popped up. And Sherman we don't know that that's the case, so I should not recklessly speculate. But if we're talking about suicidal thoughts, I mean...
Talk about mental health.
Mental health. I mean, when you talk about suicidal thoughts among football players, who's the first person that pops in your mind? Junior Seau. I mean, I don't have some great philosophical point on this other than it scares me. I love football. I love covering the NFL. I love watching these guys do what they do for a living. But when these situations arise, and it just it just makes me reevaluate what exactly I'm seeing on a weekly basis, on a day-to-day basis when I go to a football game to cover it. Gladiator sport that it is. Scares the holy hell out of me. That's all I got on that. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun in two regards. All right? I've got a pair of tickets to send you, well, for you to go with us to the Nashville SC game on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. We're going to hang out. By the way, we are going to get together at the East Side, East Nashville Edley's, 5 o'clock. That's going to be our tailgate. Shout out to the good people at Edley's who have reserved the patio for us. So at Edley's at 5 p.m., then we're taking you to a soccer game. I got one more pair of tickets for you to win. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045 is how you go with us. The last pair. Fight for them. No, I'm kidding. We'll have some fun with Coach Mack of Titans Radio. Coach Dave McGinnis. Coming up next, I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Titans football, the passion that unites us all. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans Radio, 104.5 The Zone.
today. Coach Mack, where are you in the world right now? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, hey, Buck. I just enjoyed my little chat there with Lucas, and I know I can tell you where I am because I understand you did a very nice job with your geography lesson with Rhett earlier in the week, and so that I know I'm talking with a land expert now. No, I went down to Texas. I started out going down to Texas to see family. We had a big family event down in Texas, and then I moved a little further west to a couple other places on some business, and that's where I am right now. And I'll be back in Nashville, ready to start rolling here pretty quick.
No question. It's right around the corner. Speaking of that, just for the audience's context, I've just gotten an email about our training camp schedule, Mac, for the Titans. Specifically, though, as it relates to fans, it says, due to the ongoing practice facility construction at St. Thomas Sports Park, no practices will be open to the general public this year. I've also just gotten a text that said the Nissan Stadium practices are out as well because of the events taking place there. Garth Brooks, the IndyCar race, and 2 Nashville SC games. No availability for fans to join us at training camp this year, but training camp right around the corner.
Yeah, and, I think we all knew that this was coming just because those of us that have been there during the mini camp, you can see the progress that is being made in the massive construction that Amy Adams Strunk and the organization has going on. But it's massive, and there is, we have to take precautions when we go up there just to go up there, for the mini camps that we were up there for and the OTAs. And so I thoroughly understand that.
Sure.
This will make it better for everyone once it is finished. The fans will have an even better experience when they come up there. But I totally understand that. And then I totally understand the stadium thing also because with Nashville SC, and as you said, you're going to have the tremendous Grand Prix thing that's going to go on that I think is outstanding. And then of course, who can argue against Garth Brooks?
I think you're losing that battle to Garth Brooks. I'm going to that concert, by the way. I'm excited about it. Coach Dave McGinnis, I should note, is presented as always by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Healthcare coverage from Farm Bureau Health Plans is like an extra set of pads when you need them the most. They've been protecting Tennesseans since 1947. By the way, Mac, 46% on my Tennessee geography B. I did not get a D, but I thought I did a hell of a lot better than I thought I was going to do. A topic of conversation.
I give you major props for that. I
really
do because I give you major props because I've been here a while, so I understand. But some of the pronunciations, when you kind of look at them, the people from New Mexico, if you were going to ask them how you pronounce Santafe, you know what all of them would say. But in Tennessee, it's Santa Fe. So just start from there.
Coach, when you compare Texas and Tennessee, the pronunciation of city names, which can get more ridiculous? Because I bet Texas has a few.
Both.
Yes,
they're both very unique to themselves. But let me tell you something, guys. And of course, I've lived both places and have been involved with people for a long time at both places. Very similar states and very, very, very similar as far as people. That's why I always felt so comfortable, when I came here to coach, and that's why I decided to move back here when given the opportunity. It's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of similarities there. And of course, Tennessee and Texas have got some deep, deep roots because they came down there before Texas was anything to kind of bail the Texans out a few times.
That is true. A history lesson with geography and history with
people
Coach Dave
won't let
McGinnis.
you forget that around here.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, Mac, I know you've spoken on this subject several times, but for our audience, obviously the audience changes between the 4 shows.
Sure.
The Ring of Honor nominations for, or inductees rather, not nominations, for Jeff Fisher, Floyd Reese, and Bum Phillips. You are not only a great asset for us as a somebody who can explain the X's and O's in a way that is easy for the audience and myself to consume, but also because of your vast history and knowledge of this sport. What do these 3 men mean to this organization and to you for over the course of your career?
Well, they're foundational pillars, for this organization, starting with Bum Phillips and of course, starting with Bud Adams, and Mr. Adams. And, the whole Love You Blue thing, was a phenomenon when it was going on down there. And as I said, Buck, I've said this to our listeners before, I go back with the Oilers organization a long way, as a senior in high school, going to their training camp in Kerrville, Texas, at Shriner Institute. The Oilers were very deep seated, in Texas, and of course, Bum Phillips, raised them, their national look very, very prominently.
Right.
He really did. And Bum was pure Texas, with the cowboy hat and all the good sayings. But on the bottom of all that, he's a damn good football coach. And so I really love what Amy Adams Strunk has done, is with this organization and continues to do. When I first came back here to work with this organization, do Titans Radio, when I first met her, Mike Keith told me, Mac, you're going to be very impressed. And I was. And it's just, the things that she's done, and to be able to tie the Oilers into with the Titans, which they're tied. They're tied at the hip. I think all three of these guys. Think of all three of these guys. From Bum Phillips, what he started, and then what Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese meant to the establishment of this organization here in Tennessee. In Nashville, everything that they did. Jeff Fisher will always be the first professional coach in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was fortunate enough to, work with Jeff for 15 years. I know what he was all about. I worked with Floyd. I think Amy Adams Strunk she is so spot on with so many of the things that she is doing, other than just administering the football team, everything else that surrounds it. I will say this, and I think Jeff Fisher would be fine with me saying this. When he was invited back to come back for the Eddie George, Steve McNair jersey retirement, and then set up in the suite during that ball game with Amy Adams Strunk, and he had known Amy from before. Of course, Amy was always, was not involved with the team, but was always around the team. So Jeff was, involved with the team for a lot of years in a very prominent position with her dad. And when I talked to him after that ball game, he said, Mac, let me just say this. I've been doing this a long time, just like you have. I sat up in that suite with her during that game. She's the most impressive owner I've ever visited with.
No small praise.
And that says a lot.
Yeah, no question. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone, presented as always by Farm Bureau Health Plans. That statement, though, that you made there were many statements made there, Mac, but about Jeff Fisher being the first professional coach of the Tennessee Titans, you being on his staff across several different stops in the NFL. For Fisher and his legacy here in Tennessee, those teams are still so ingrained in the bones of this city and this state in a way that I don't know if it's possible for NFL teams and to have that kind of association with communities or with a fan base anymore, just because of the way that the dynamic has changed, social media, fans gravitating more towards individual players as opposed to teams and franchises themselves. Can there ever be a situation like the Titans team that made the Super Bowl run and had as much success as they did with Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese at the helm of this thing? Because I find it almost impossible to recreate a situation like that in today's environment.
Well, Buck, you bring up some really interesting and very on point subjects here, because first of all, when they moved this team here, you understand that them coming here, and of course the way that they left Houston, they had to ingratiate themselves to an area that was Southeastern Conference country.
Right.
And so I think what was very important, a couple of weeks ago when we did the thing for Mike Keith, with the Titans organization, up in the East Club, to present him, his Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame induction. The thing that Larry Stone spoke at that, and the thing I'm getting to is this: when they first came here, they gave birth to the Titans Caravan.
Yeah.
Which basically, they got in an RV and they got in automobiles and canvassed the Tri-County area. They canvassed the whole area to just introduce themselves and say who they were. Well, let me just say this. In all of that, who was in those RVs with them at all of those stops? The head coach.
Right.
the head coach said, this is important. This is important. And so he got in those RVs and made those trips to all those tri-county places with Mike Keith and with the PR crew and with Larry Stone, that was running Titans radio at the time with Mike Keith. And so, I mean, that was a huge part of the foundation of just beginning to not only introduce themselves to the grown-ups and the adults in the area at the time, but the kids too, because those kids were going to be the future fans. And then as Fish has told me many a time, there's so many stories that he has about that are fantastic, that you had to have some real stick to it to stay with it, with what was going on. But the fact that they were able to, once they went into, the new stadium at the time and then go to the Super Bowl that year, I mean, that was a fairy tale type of a thing. And I think that set it off, in a way it more quickly than anything ever else could have been set off. And then the sustained success that he and Floyd had here for a period of time. And I was fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of that. And so to me, it's always been the city, not only the city, the state and a lot of the areas surrounding have always embraced the Titans. But Jeff Fisher has always said, and he and I went to St. Louis, then we went to L.A., but he and I both always said Nashville is always going to be our place, because it was where he not only, he got his start in Houston, but he really made his mark here and in the league here in Nashville. And so it's such an appropriate thing for he and Floyd to go in together with Bum Phillips. I just think it's fabulous. And I'll go back to what I said when we started this conversation. Amy Adams Strunk pushing all the right buttons.
It's true. The only button left to push at this point is we need Coach Mack in the Ring of Honor and Mike Keith as well. I think this is a campaign that we need to start, Mack. It's okay. You don't have to do it. I will do it for you. Don't worry about it.
Well, let me say this. Mike Keith in the Ring of Honor, I am all for. Coach Mack in the Ring of Honor, I am more than happy to sit there and shine their placards when they're in there. Believe me, I don't need to be in there. I'm very, very fortunate to be able to do what I do. As I said, this place has always been very special to me, and we're going to have some special times ahead. I'm so looking forward, to this season coming up and a lot of seasons afterwards, because this organization is on the right track. And plus, in my travels, guys, people ask about what's going on in Nashville. Yeah. They just ask about what's going on in Nashville, because it's not just something that we know locally as a cool place now. In fact, I was, out on the left coast, and there's a lot of people moving from the left coast into here. Just as a heads up.
Yeah, no, we see them flooding our highways every day. There's no question about it. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio.
Buck, how was your trip to Chicago before we get off of here?
Oh, buddy, I'm telling you, Mac, I owe you. I'm going to send you, whenever you come home, let me know, and I'm going to send you a very nice bottle of whatever it is that you want to drink, because the restaurant recommendation list, we hit 3 of them. We did Maple and Ash, we did Juno, and we did, I'm blanking on the third one, but I know it's the Italian place.
Like Giordano's or something?
No, Giordano's is the deep dish pizza, but Max sent me an exceptional Italian restaurant. Dara could not have had a better birthday celebration,
okay.
And it was in part due to Coach Mack.
You just said the magic phrase. Dara could not have had a better birthday. That's all I was in on it for. I seriously, Buck, as much as I like you, I could have cared less. I just don't know about how much you enjoyed it. I wanted her to enjoy it.
She sure as hell did. We even sent Coach Mack a picture from dinner one night just to let him know.
Oh, I was so happy to get that when I was traveling. I got that, and you said Juno is a hit, and I saw her there, and I went, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, well, those places are pretty cool. I know my way around that city pretty good too, Buck.
Oh, it's an incredible city. We could not have had a better time, and it's not like Coach Mack needs extra brownie points with my girlfriend. He's got that in spades, but that certainly put it over the top.
I'm glad to hear it went well. Very cool.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us. All right, Mac, I got one football question for you, and then we'll get you out of here, okay? What's happening with Tom Brady today, where Tom Brady reportedly played the entirety of the season with a torn MCL, did not pop up on the injury report one time. You are no stranger, and the world of professional athletics is no stranger to athletes hiding injuries to make sure that they can make it to game day. how difficult is that to navigate as a head coach, especially when a lot of guys, maybe not all of them, have outside trainers and people who manage them like Tom Brady does. How difficult is that to navigate as a head coach, given all the rules that are in place with that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we always have to used to do, and they still have to do it, and they've changed some of the designations, is the injury report, that started on Wednesday that, that officially has to go out. And, you have to ascertain throughout the week, where people are. Now, as far as Brady's situation, I wasn't there. I don't know whether it started off as an MCL sprain and then continued on and just worsened as to where it finally became a full tear at the end of the season. With the everything that was going on. I don't know any of that. So I don't know any of that, but I do know this, that making those injury designations during the week, was something that that we gave a lot of thought to. And here's the other thing too. And as I said, what have they taken out? They've taken out the probable designation,
right,
I believe now. But the thing that we used to have to navigate is to see not only where the player was on, we knew where they were on Monday and Tuesday, but then to start to navigate where they were on Wednesday and then try to predict where they were going to be on Sunday. I mean, those things were something that, were a little bit nebulous at best. Let me say that.
Yeah, nebulous is a great way to put it. Coach Dave McGinnis, always a pleasure to have you on, Mac. Enjoy your travels, do them safely, and we look forward to when you return back to Music City.
Buck, next time I see you, I'll hopefully be on the practice field, brother.
Hell yeah, training camp right around the corner. And Titans Radio going to kill it, as always. Mike Keith, Coach Mac, Rhett Bryan, the whole crew. Thanks, Mac.
See you, Buck.
All right, we will come back. We will wrap up the show. We will wrap up the week. What a week it was here on 104.5 The Zone.
The best Titans coverage can be found on your smartphone.
Comeback foiled. Titans 4-2.
Download the 104.5 The Zone app. Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans Radio. 104.5 The Zone.
3HL, get you a little closer. But as we do this time each and every Friday, thank you guys so much for everything that you do for this show. It means the world to Lucas and I. We love y'all, and we love the way that you participate, you interact with us, and it just, we like to take time every Friday to acknowledge that. And also, we're looking forward to taking 20 of you to the Nashville SC game on Saturday. That's going to be a party, man. I'm going to throw down. I'm going to be dragging a leg a little bit because we got my birthday party tonight. So I don't know what state I'm going to look like, Lucas. We may have to go get me an IV or put some makeup on me or something like that. Send me in there before we do the VIP night at Nissan Stadium.
Are you going to wear a sash on Saturday too?
I mean, as long as our guests in the audience are comfortable with my sash displaying profanity, then yes. I'm not above that.
Well, there may be children present.
No, I hope. Well, I would, if you would like to bring your children, if you are one of our invited guests, if you are somebody who have gotten the tickets from us, I cannot tell you not to bring your children, but I would just say that Lucas, or at least I don't know how to properly handle children.
All right, I'm just going to play the poll open.
Yeah, let's do
Stop
that.
the count. Stop the count. The polls have closed, and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Reising Show daily correspondent, Lucas Polzica.
Thank you for bailing me out there. V-Love says Adderall will pick you back up, too. I don't know if V-Love's got a plug or not.
We don't condone these things. V-Love, looking forward to hanging out with V-Love tomorrow,
he'll
too.
be there.
Is Tom Brady human? 56% say no.
Yeah. Only 56%? What is wrong with you people?
44% believe he is.
That's dumb. Stupid. What's wrong with 44% of you? Man just won the Super Bowl, went 11-5, threw for more passing yards than Ryan Tannehill in the best offensive season, the best passing statistical season by a Titans quarterback in the history of the franchise?
Since they arrived in Nashville, yes.
Okay.
Warren Moon had some phenomenal seasons.
Right. 3,800 passing yards, 3,800 plus passing yards for Ryan Tannehill last year, and Brady did it on a torn MCL, and nobody knew. 11-5 Super Bowl, of course.
Did you see okay, I'm going to start over.
Breathe.
Did the UFC screw over Conor McGregor bettors? Yes or no? 61% say no.
Hell yes, and you should sue. What do you mean? 61% said no?
Yes.
How could them not disclosing an injury not screw over the betting public?
Stress fractures on the lower leg where he did indeed break it at the end of the first round.
Did we not make that? I mean, maybe we didn't make that clear enough in the poll, but how the hell could 61% of people not think that the UFC didn't screw them over? The UFC knew.
Right. Dana White knew, the UFC knew, according to McGregor. Zach Allen says, as one who bet on McGregor, I don't think so. Flukes happen, and betting is a gamble.
Nah, that's crap. I'm sorry. Zach Allen, we love Zach Allen and Buddy Allen, Carpet One. But
very comfortable hoodies.
Very comfortable hoodies, and they also make my appearances on 3HL every Monday possible.
Dane says, how the bleep do you vote no? He had stress fractures on his legs, which are used in mixed martial arts. You know that's what MMA stands for. All y'all that voted no must be Dustin Poirier fans.
Well, even if they let him fight with the stress fractures, they should have said something. Like, I'm not condoning sending Conor McGregor into the octagon with a stress fracture in his leg. They shouldn't have had the fight.
Yeah, that in and of itself.
Yeah. But
in a sport where you just beat each other up.
If you're going to do that and you know about it, you have to tell the public. There's too much money at stake.
Who wins the NBA Finals? Game 5. Bucks or Suns? 62% are giving it to the Suns in Phoenix.
The Chris Paul thing's been weird lately. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's fighting through some stuff. Maybe he's got a torn MCL like Brady that we don't know about. But the turnovers, very, very uncharacteristic for Chris Paul after having such a great postseason in that regard.
And turnovers in critical situations like in Game 4.
The clutch minute statistics for Chris Paul in the last 2 games have not been ideal.
Because that was the only really close game of the series, right?
Game 4? Yeah, because Game 3 was a blowout in Milwaukee. Yeah. We will see what happens in Game 5, but I'm now markedly more interested in the NBA Finals because we have an even series.
Home team has won every game tonight. They are in Phoenix. Our very own Kyle, our engineer, he's very nervous. He's getting nervous. He thought it was going to be Suns in 4. Big Suns fan. He's from Arizona.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Did I say tonight?
Yes.
Tomorrow. Last poll of the day. Did you have any idea the Open Championship was happening?
No clue.
55% say yes.
50. You know why? 55% of people knew? Because they were betting. That's the only reason you would know. Because there have been zero promotion for this. I had no idea we were in day 2 of it, and it's literally on while I'm in the studio.
Yeah, watching it right now. Jordan Spieth making a little run.
He's Jordan Spieth. How disappointing of a career so far after so much hype around him.
Dylan Morris says, believe it or not, people are aware of things going on.
People are aware of things going. What? What is he saying?
He said, believe it or not, people are aware of things going on because we asked the question, did you know the Open was happening?
Well, no, smartass, because 45% of the people said they didn't know what was going on. So some people knew it was going on.
Is it strictly, I guess it's going to move to Fox or something for days 3 and 4? Because it's on Golf Channel right now.
Why are you asking me when we just stated that we had no idea that it was on, Lucas?
But you're right. There's been no promotion of it. The U.S. Open, same thing. Like, I didn't know that was happening until day 1.
Now, the match with, like, Aaron Rodgers and Brady and Mickelson and DeChambeau is a different situation entirely. But there was precious little promotion around that as well.
Well, compared to last year when the match was the only thing we had.
Well, because who was in it last year?
Yeah, Peyton.
Peyton is a shameless camera grabber, which I appreciate. I recognize the behavior. Those are the polls?
Those are the polls.
Very
Got them
good.
done early today.
All right. So we've had some people chime in the comment section on Zone TV, where you can hang out with us on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Lebowski, who will also be in attendance at the soccer game. For all of our sakes, do not bring your damn kids tomorrow. Signed, alcohol consumption. I mean, what are we going? We're going to be blacked out drunk in the stand. Nashville SC is never going to let us do another thing at there because I'm probably going to have a full head of steam on. Like I'm even if it's just like shampoo drunk from the night before. Like I'm gonna be having a good time.
It should be a fun game. Like Ake Loba, the record transfer signing from last week, you expect him to make his debut. Probably won't start, but expect to see him on Saturday. Maybe we'll see some goals. Chicago Fire have not run a road game in MLS in a very, very, very long time. So hopefully we'll get goals and a good result.
For more insights on the state of all things soccer, you can subscribe, rate, and review to the Nashville Soccer Show, which features our very own Lucas Pansica. Every Wednesday?
Tuesday nights, 9 p.m.
It's a bad job at it. Well, it might as well be Wednesday. But yes, we would invite. We look forward to having all of you there to hang out with us. It's the first show event that we've been able to do with COVID and when this show started. So we will enjoy that together. Speaking of podcasts, the Zone Podcast Network, Will Bowling has done a great job with this, and I don't like to give Will Bowling a lot of credit for anything, but Will has put together an exceptional lineup of podcasts, and not just because I have a new podcast that's featured in it. Between the Zone Daily, the Strike Zone, the Nashville Soccer Show, the Ultimate Tennessee Podcast, and now every Wednesday in your podcast feed. Speaking of plugs, the Install with Greg Cosell and myself. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever it is that you get your podcasts. I'm really excited about that project and what Will and everybody here at the Zone is doing on the digital side of things to kind of expand the offerings for you guys, I think is going to be a good deal. Now I'm trying to, because I had not considered the actual soccer element of going to the Nashville SC game tomorrow. You have reminded me that there will be, in fact, be a soccer match.
There will be
played.
a game.
There will be a game. Who is doing the guitar riff? Do we know this?
I don't know. It's going to be hard to top Joe Bonamassa from last week. I listened to some Joe Bonamassa on the way in today. He's just incredible. So that it's going to be hard to one-up that, but I'm sure they'll have something in their back pocket.
Is it just because you like saying the last name?
That, and he's just like a blues guitar god.
Well, and we've been invited to a night out.
Yes, our guy Bam.
Bam, who is a drummer, is invited. I mean, Ramon, I was talking to Ramon Foster as we were swapping studios, him heading to the green room and me heading in here to do my show after J. Martin Ramon. Ramon says he's going. We did verbally commit yesterday on the phone. Bam was smart because he called us in that way that I didn't have the opportunity to back out in some form or fashion like I might have on social media. Well,
I'm going to be there.
Well, I know because you're always there. You live there. You rent space.
I've probably seen Bam there before because I think he performs there routinely.
You would probably not remember.
No, I've never met Bam, so I'm looking forward to meeting Bam. He is a drummer at Blues and Boogie Bar.
anything that we can do to hang out with, honestly, and I don't say this tongue in cheek, anything that we can do to hang out with you guys more, I'm excited about, because we had some questions yesterday about a fantasy football league. I played fantasy football in the Zone's fantasy football league last year, even though I wasn't working here yet. I don't know how I feel about that, though. That sounds
How'd you do?
Oh, I don't know. I stopped paying attention. When am I?
You were that guy?
What do you mean I'm that guy?
Just didn't set your lineup?
No. I'm kind of busy on Sundays, Lucas.
Then don't join a fantasy football league.
Well, what do you mean? I was asked. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to ignore the invitation. Maybe I should have, because I clearly ignored everything else that happened after I accepted the invitation. In fact, I was on auto draft too. I didn't even do that myself.
No.
So maybe we don't want a Buck Reising Show fantasy football league. Enjoy the hell out of your weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday. We will report back on all of the things that take place this weekend, and hopefully not give you guys too much FOMO about the fun that we're going to have at Nissan Stadium on Saturday night. Don't forget, if you're coming with us, 5 p.m., Edley's, East Nashville. See you Monday.
When they talk Titans, you listen. The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3